Hey guys, it's Matt. Still very sick. This can't wait. I don't know if it's the hallucinations of a high fever or what caused this. I'm going to read this as much as I've read or written. I'm going to make mistakes. I don't have time to redo this. This is not part of the book. I need the greatest group of people that have ever been assembled to understanding what this reality is to literally sit down and not enjoy this, but to really, really think this out. If there's a 1 in 5 chance that I'm right about any of this, it's insightful. It's also scary. So, hopefully, I don't know. Part of me says, well, maybe I'm right, but maybe I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't know. But I need you guys to criticize this or support it with everything you know and everything you've learned. And in other words, this is not a fun listen. Please only comment on the subject matter here. I don't know. Let me just get to it. Is it an insight into the nature of this reality? I don't know. But I'm rushing it out, sick as a dog, so I guess I think it might be. All right. What do we know? 1. We know that everything in this reality breaks down upon close examination. By the way, guys, I'm also going to go pretty slow so you can absorb each section. This is, we got to put our minds together here. 1. We know everything in this reality breaks down upon close examination. For those over here on this side of crazy, we've done the research. We know for a fact that 9/11 had nothing to do with 19 hijackers. We know that most mass shootings are fake. Let me remind anybody listening, we know these things. We don't suspect these things, we say. We don't think. We know. We know nobody went or can go to the moon. We know the official reason for every major war is a false construct. Then if you're LBJ, you can falsify reasons to keep the war and the killing going. Look at the so-called start of World War I, about how the world went to war over a shooting of some fat arch dick, probably somebody nobody liked. People are like, Matt, if you're trying to reveal metaphysical reality, why are you making jokes again in your reading? It's just the way I write. This isn't littered with jokes, don't worry. The story of how World War I started is absurd. And what's interesting, if you go search the history on World War I now, you get a lot of official documentaries saying we don't quite know how World War I started. Everything's a construct. We know Kennedy, and the Kennedy assassination was basically a stage show. We know the sky outside can be clear blue, and then around noon, after just 8 or 10 planes pass overhead, the entire sky becomes a hazy white cloud. The 40,000 flights a day in the United States follow what are called shipping lanes. If just one plane made a 100-mile-long thick trail, they all would. We would never then ever see a blue sky on days with those humidity conditions. We know they have cures for cancer. We know they have free energy. Imagine George Carlin now saying, "We don't get those free cures, do we?" I understand how ridiculously conspiratorial all this sounds to anybody new, for those listening. Sorry, we don't have a few years to bring you up to speed. If you find this essay to be well written and well thought out, how do you reconcile that with your paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis that you've already given me? For those who can see, reality seems to break down daily on us anymore. Now we see that the moon is actually inside the Earth's atmosphere, according to RT. And there's not a single New England Journal of Medicine paper definitively linking HIV to AIDS. Where'd that come from? Here's a science journal. Wow, what's it say? It says that the astronauts on the International Space Station experience 90% of Earth's gravity. It just looks like everything's floating around because they're all free-falling around the Earth. Our leaders participate in a pagan ritual in the groves in California once a year, and European leaders participate in their own Gotthard Tunnel pagan ritual. The Chinese are just collecting gold every month because this economic collapse is just bound to happen any week now. With this many reality breakdowns that I've looked at over many, many years, that's it. I'm done with it. I'm not chasing the next rabbit in his hole. I'm not spending one more minute on trying to figure out what Tartaria is all about or mud floods. I'm done chasing the rabbit. At some point, even the craziest of patients should figure out he's in an insane asylum, and the insane asylum ain't the real world. To recap this section, which is number 1, we now know all of reality breaks down upon close examination. I believe all these YouTube channels now exist in these truth circles to get you to think about your situation in the wrong way, that perhaps you can fix it in the wrong way. Do I have the right way? We'll see. Again, to go slowly, 1 is all of reality for those listening to this in these circles has pretty much broken down. Oh, what happened this week? Oh, the moon's in the Earth's atmosphere? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, these once-in-a-lifetime revelations are coming weekly. Now, that doesn't add up. Let's move on to number 2. We know we can see these things that others around us cannot see. Is it that they don't want to see it? Or they can't see it? Literally can't see it. Think about that. I no longer accept the premise that people around us simply choose not to see the ugly truths of this world, trying to protect their worldview. You've heard me talk about that for 100 years. They just try to protect their worldview. I don't know if I buy the simple explanations anymore. I no longer accept that people are employing mental defense mechanisms to hide the real world from their sight. For years, that's all I believed because that's all that was possible inside the narrow confines of what I called reality. By now, we've all been conditioned into thinking that our box of reality is the size of the Pacific Ocean. It's so big because we're free thinkers, when our box is probably the size of a tic-tac box. I believe it's far more complicated, and things are at play here beyond our perception, and without more knowledge, beyond our comprehension. I now believe that our friends, family, and neighbors literally can't see what we see, which means I'm past. They just choose not to look at these scary things because they choose to protect their worldview. Many people I'm speaking to right now are not Mandela affected. But before you roll your eyes at me, it is you I'm speaking to most here, those that are not Mandela affected. In the case of the Mandela effect, it's clear that most people simply can't see any changes. Even those that are affected, we don't see the same things. Of course, to those people who don't see any changes, after working for years to expand their minds to see that their own government perpetrated 9/11, they resort right back to the old habits and calling those who see things that they don't understand nuts. Regarding the Mandela effect, it's not like they're afraid to see the change or are protecting their worldview. Most people here listening to this don't see any changes. They can't see any changes because those changes do not affect or in any way part of their reality. There was no change in their reality. This is how the Mandela effect works for those that are not familiar with it. I believe we should apply this lesson, though, to the reality breakdowns occurring all around us. It's a good lesson, no matter what you think of the Mandela effect. How long before I entertain that my uncle or my best friend simply can't see what we see? Literally can't see it. How much more evidence do we need that potentially they literally can't see it? I've shown people a giggling Robbie Parker the day after his own daughter's supposed death, and people explain it away as people respond differently to death. They explain it away all over the place. See, we can look at something that's so clear, and you show it to somebody right next to you, and they see it, there's something appearing on the screen, but what you're saying is not part of their reality. Potentially literally not part of the reality. Like people saying Robbie Parker, oh, well, people respond to death differently. No, they don't. They cry when their little daughter is killed in a shooting the day before. They cry, and they cry all night. If Mike Tyson punches 10 of us in the face in a bar fight, I assure you our noses will react in exactly the same way. When you show somebody Robbie Parker or an inflated tire below the North Tower, or explain how 40 people in the first 60 seconds in Orlando were killed, and that situation can never turn into a 2-hour hostage situation, they don't see what we see. They don't see the impossibility of what we're presenting. It's not because they're just trying to protect their psyche. It's more than that at this point. At this point, I must assume that they literally can't see it, or it's not part of their reality. Reality breakdowns are everywhere we look, and we won't keep on the table that they simply can't see it. In just one day of being sick, trolling around the internet, I learned that the moon is actually in the Earth's atmosphere, and I learned that Nobel Prize winners for creating the HIV test now say there's no link at all between HIV and AIDS, and it's the AZT drugs that kill people, not HIV. Then I, in my 103-degree fever hallucination, troll around the internet some more, and I see a doctor inject himself with the HIV virus at a press conference. Now, this should be the biggest story of all time, but it's completely unreported by the news. It looks like an old press conference. Why wasn't it a big news in the late 90s? Maybe it wasn't part of reality. Who knows? Every metaphysical, bizarre anomaly has to be on the table at this point. We are getting a reality breakdown weekly. That's not possible using normal assumptions. For years, I racked my brain trying to understand why things that are so clear can't be seen by the people around us. That's the main reason for my reality bubble theory. Meaning, to a large degree, we all may carry around our own reality, albeit with shared elements. For example, inside everybody's reality bubble, Brady and the Patriots won their 6th Super Bowl. We all share that in our reality bubble. Because we share that, and we share other trivial nonsense the system projects from its screen, we assume the set of knowledge inside each of our reality bubbles is exactly the same. It may not be the same at all. The evidence now suggests it's not the same. The word universe, or one unique individual verse, carried forth by a real spirited being of this realm, implies in the name itself we may be carrying around literally our own realities. When one reality bubble bumps into another, or impinges or infringes on another, then potentially they merge, like water finding its level. But until that's done, we may carry our own realities with shared elements. It's just, you just can't take that off the table at this point. There's too many bizarro world things going on out the window. Let me ask you this. If what I just presented is even a bit accurate, whose reality bubble is carrying the most hell? Who's holding and propagating the hellish earth? We are. Matt is. To us, the government is run by archonic beings sucking our energy and enslaving us. To us, it makes perfect sense that the Tuskegee experiment took place, where the government killed off hundreds of poor black people, lying to them about what was wrong with them while monitoring their syphilis from a distance as they died over decades. See, to us, we see the sinister nature. To us, that's all normal. We could lecture for 10 hours. Each of us could lecture for 10 hours without notes about the horror in this world that we see now, which means we carry the horror. What does your neighbor think about the world? Well, he or she thinks that it's natural for a bit of corruption to creep into anything this big, but the government is generally there to help people. My neighbor may see that the banking system is stacked to benefit the rich, but he probably thinks that providing such liquidity opens the door to new home ownership for millions, and benefits of the whole system far outweigh the negatives. Sure, our neighbor turns on the TV and sees the political scandal, the endless Russian hack the election and all the other nonsense, but he believes deep down that good people will eventually get to the bottom of it and correct the wrong. We see that the scandal is completely staged by a sinister element and is part of a grand script created to spawn negative frequency that can be harvested by some sort of interdimensional Dracula. So I say to you again, which reality bubbles are carrying the most hell. Ours are. We are. Just don't think past that. Just agree with it, because there's no doubt about it. We tend to get on the simpletons around us for not being able to see. We have an arrogant attitude. But the fact is, we carry the hell in our reality bubbles. Let's move on. Guess what? Both Neo and Agent Smith were essential elements used in the resetting of Zion in the movie The Matrix, of course. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Neo and Smith were essential to getting the job done. Now, what do we see at the end of the Matrix trilogy? We see the Oracle and the Architect sitting together on a bench as if they had been working together all along. They had been working together all along. Guess what? To those of us who say we can see, you and I who believe we're superior because we can see, we may be the one or the anomaly needed to actually fulfill the evil plan. We know there's a sinister element amongst us, no doubt. We're not getting that wrong. The following theory is the only one that takes everything into account, in my opinion. You know how a lot of theories work, like when physicists need to create dark matter and make up dark energy to get their gravity equations to work. Like, oh, gravity isn't really working, so let's create two things that don't exist, so then the equations work. Well, it seems every other theory, but this one kind of creates something to fill in the gaps, to prop it up. I'm not sure this one does. I'm not saying this is right. It's just a way of thinking about things that's completely different. I'm not sure we've ever gone down this path before. It's worth going down. Could this be their plan presented in the following? I don't know about you, but you know me. I strongly believe in the whole quantum creation thing. I believe in the rice experiment. And the loved rice is still white at the end. And the rice that's hated is all moldy and disgusting. Don't believe me? Go watch the 20 YouTube videos or more on YouTube where everybody gets the same result. The rice that was loved is white. It's a metaphysical breakdown. It shouldn't happen if the world they tell us is real or whatever that is really exists. It shouldn't happen. I guess everybody presenting the rice experiment on YouTube, they're all in on it and faking it. No, they're not. I believe in the Dr. Emoto, is that his name? The Dr. Emoto stuff. That the water labeled war, you know, they write war on the jar of water, and people think about war as they stare into the water. When under a microscope, it looks like maggots. And the water labeled love, and they asked people to feed love into that water, looks like perfect snowflakes. I believe in that. If in any way you believe in that, then these people that suggest we affect our quantum reality, they're not nuts. This shit's been proven. You don't have to be Mandela affected to see that human thought, emotion, and intention influence reality in a metaphysical way. Call it whatever you want then. If you don't like those terms or are triggered by those terms, what about dark or light magic? Most people in these circles believe in that, dark magic. Is that really any different from this perspective? It's all simply a way to influence reality using, I don't know, whatever word you like, unconventional means. For those people who can never ever believe that the human being can affect his or her world or reality with something other than the tools he has in his tool shed, then end this video now. This video is not for you. For those, on the other hand, who think we do have certain abilities, long suppressed by this control structure. Let's continue. Again, those abilities, call them what you want. Quantum creation, reality creation, collapsing the wave function, dark or light magic, alchemy, astrology. There's a lot of different terms. They all fall outside of what you know as reality as presented in science class. Okay. We know that the control structure gives away his fake events. He gives away his false flags and schemes. We know he wants to be caught. We know no one on the control team is dumb enough, though, to place an inflated tire at the bottom of the North Tower or send in a giggling Robbie Parker when in just 20 seconds CNN could have edited that out. We've talked a bit about this ad nauseum. These mistakes in the events are not mistakes. So, what do you believe? In a staged event like Captain Hook, they just weren't looking for little things that could pop up, and they just let Robbie Parker come out like giggling and smiling as he took the podium? What? That's all on purpose. We just think these crisis actors are just so stupid that people like Norman Cassiano can't even remember how many times he was supposed to be told he was shot. Well, in the case of somebody like that, he may be that stupid. But you know what I mean. Generally, if there's a mistake, it's planted there. No, people, we know these are not mistakes. Now, if they're placed there on purpose, what is the point of the controllers intentionally giving themselves away? There are only two possibilities. One, to see who notices, so they can then flag whoever notices, flag their IP address, and round those up that notice, get them into a Walmart FEMA camp and throw away the key. We know that's not going to happen, it's never going to happen, and it's all fear porn on the internet. That's not it. Or the second reason for leaving mistakes. They get us, specifically us, to notice something, to bend over, to pick up the breadcrumb and eat it, and then to follow the breadcrumb trail because it does something for them. Us following it does something for them. Likely, we are designed to do the work for them. Because what do we do when we notice the reality breakdowns, or we grab onto a part of the story that's a laughable presentation by the powers that be? What do? What does Matt do? We spend hours and hours of time on it, analyzing it, making videos about it. We convince ourselves that the evil we found is real, and then we work to convince others it's real. Perhaps we give the evil legs. Perhaps we give the evil the standing, where it did not have standing before, where it did not even exist before. Maybe. We'll come back to that. We know that this life is a trick being played through a reality script of some kind being delivered. A reality script. We know that. I mean, no matter how real you think anything is, we see that. Now, why does anybody play a trick? Anybody, even a second grader. Why does anybody play a trick? One, for some devious fun. No, the sinister element here on this realm is not just having fun. Why does somebody play a trick? Two, to get somebody to do something that they wouldn't normally do. To get somebody to do something that benefits the person playing the trick. Ah, this is likely what it is. Like, what is a call center from Tijuana? Why do they call an old woman, age 85, living in Birmingham, Alabama, pretending to be a taxing authority, and that she needs to provide $10,000 immediately to this account number? They're playing a trick to get her to do something, to get something out of it. That's what this sinister element is doing to us. The key determination to make, then, if we know a trick is being laid down, is who's being tricked? Who's the focus of the trick? Is it you and me being tricked, or the masses, our friends and family and neighbor and everybody else around us in the big cities? Are they being tricked? Well, we assume the trick is for the masses and that we're immune, we can see. That's a dangerous assumption to make when all of reality or our own souls are at stake, or who knows what's at stake. Think about this. If the powers that be are playing tricks on the regular humans, the masses and the asses, why do the powers that be insert mistakes into events when they clearly don't have to? They're trying to trick the masses, right? Not us. Take 9/11, for example. If you want to trick an entire population, hundreds of millions of people, that 19 hijackers did it, why do you leave behind an inflated tire? Do you really need that prop as part of the story? You have 3 collapsed buildings that kind of, implant the story pretty good for most people. You don't need the prop of the inflated tire. You think maybe they're just too stupid not to understand they'd be giving anything away with an inflated tire in that situation? After the, massive wreckage of the plane and the fireball out the other side, they're just not smart enough to figure that they should really pop it with a knife and maybe singe it around the edges with a blowtorch so it looks real. It doesn't take much to get people to believe the official story. A popped, singed tire is all it would take. In other words, if that tire, which would have been ridiculous because there wouldn't be anything there, it'd be melted. If it was singed and popped, we would have no argument when we're trying to wake up our cousin or our brother or dad. But because it's inflated, we have something to latch on to. The tire is inflated. Woke me up to a few things. So if they're being that sloppy, if that's what it is, just sloppiness, is dangerous. Because people like you and me will see it, will latch onto it, and will use it to wake up others. But they're not that sloppy. They can't possibly be that sloppy. A third grader, if planning 9/11, would say, I don't think we should put this tire down here inflated. What would you do, third grader? I'd probably slash it with a knife and put a burn mark on it so people will buy it. All right, well, let's do it. It was put there, we know this, it was put there so people like you and I would see it. Robbie Parker, it's all the same thing. More on this because it's so important. Was Donald Rumsfeld running around the Pentagon lawn carrying stretchers such an integral part of the official story that nobody would have ever believed in 9/11, nobody would have ever believed it happened like they said it did if they didn't see or know about Rumsfeld running around the lawn carrying stretchers? Well, first off, hardly anybody that believes in 9/11 even knew about that. We latched onto that and show people that. And two, the 3 collapsed buildings is kind of enough for most people. They didn't need that prop. That prop was, again, unnecessary. And it was a mistake placed there on purpose for us to see. Like the WDBJ story. What? We think nobody attending the Ball of Demons in the back room, the George Bush creatures can figure out that they just can't figure out you really can't set up a scholarship for a corpse in 10 hours. No, if you know and I know that you can't do a scholarship in 10 hours, those creatures in the back room know it. It's a mistake. It's a breadcrumb placed in perfect position for us to find, for us to chase, and for us to do something with. And oh yes, it's thoroughly pissed on. So after all this, what have we done for a decade? Me as well, all of us. What have we done? We've taken the bait. Like a wolverine, we've seized onto every single one of their mistakes, which is really not a mistake, that's put there on purpose. We've grabbed on every single one. We've snatched up every pissed on breadcrumb. We're relentless in our analysis of the events. We find everything. And they know we're going to find everything. Don't you think? And what we do with the evidence that we're oh so smart to find, because they never would think we'd find this and we found it. It's obviously there on purpose. What do? 1, we use it to further reinforce to us, ourselves, and our own brethren in these circles how evil the control structure is when we already know it. And 2, we use the presentation of the fraud and the quote mistakes that they make to convince others to see things the way that we do. For those sensing where I'm going with this video, right now we see hell. Right now the reality around us is a form of hell. We then, via very convincing YouTube videos with smart witty commentary from people like Matt, try to manifest that hell onto others. In doing so, perhaps we impinge or infringe our reality bubble onto theirs, like passing a poison or like spreading a virus. Let's go back to the notion that oh so many people are still triggered by. I believe in some way we are quantum creators. Use a different word again if you're triggered. We're capable of forms of magic as real human beings. These abilities, no doubt, have been suppressed by what we call the control structure. But whatever left we have, whatever little bit we have left, if we can influence this reality, then potentially here is what happened. The powers that be get those people most influential in affecting reality to fall for the trick or to fall for a trick. And if their trick is successful, we then create the reality that they want for them. Now let's go all the way to the base level, all the way to the first grade level. We witness this sort of manipulation all the time, right on the news. Take the drummed up racial divide that's all over the place right now. It's been all over the place for 10 years, since Barack Obama. Black History Month, by the way, causes racism on both sides, black and white. Affirmative action causes racism. This stuff is positioned to be put there, just to help. No, it's built to cause racism. Every year the Oscars will have a few movies up for something that's all about race. Every single year. When they don't have a movie that's all about race, then they'll bring on somebody like Chris Rock to host, and he'll open up the Oscars with 10 minutes of just sickening race-related jokes. People sit uncomfortably in their seats, and they never listen for a second, thinking it's all on purpose, meant to drum up race strife and race problems that's in this country. This control system lives to drum up race problems, and people think all this crap that's all over the news is just there to help. They've done a great job convincing us that recycling race over and over in every movie, on every news program, on every TV show is just a way to remind all of us of past wrongs so they never happen again. But that's not their intention at all. Their intention is to stir the race pot forever. And it's the easiest way that they have to manifest more hell, which is what they want. Movies like The Color Purple, Django Unchained, 12 Years a Slave, and 1,000 other or 100 other major films like Amistad, as good as those movies are, and many of them are good, but they're there to constantly keep the race issue in our face, so it never gets better, so it never goes away. Then, if that's not enough, they throw a fake white cop shoots a black kid into the news, and then they throw in every so often some ridiculous racial event like Jussie Smollett or something ridiculous like Obama having a beer or whatever he did with the Boston police. And a note to all those triggered, all those right now getting triggered. Yes, white cops have shot black kids, no doubt about it. However, listen to me very carefully. The major news stories in this regard, like Trayvon Martin and Dylan Stormroof, are 100% fake, meant to cause major problems with race relations in this country. I'm sorry, I don't have the time to explain it all here, but just think about it for 2 seconds. Every year, for 10 years, all over the place, we have white cops gunning down little black kids for doing absolutely nothing. The cases get more and more ridiculous year after year. A black kid goes into a 7-Eleven to buy a pack of gum. 2 white cops rush in and gun him down, thinking he was going to rob the place because he was reaching into his wallet to pay for the gum. One last time for the triggered. Racist cops have done a lot of bad things. White racist cops. So have black racist cops. Guess what? The major things the news presents to us, like Rodney King, are 100% fake. I have to move on. You may not be making the connection on how a video about the manipulation of metaphysical reality ties into the petty tricks that we all observe the system doing to us for years regarding things like stirring up race relations. Give me a moment. I'm highlighting all the endless tricks, in this case racial tricks, the system plays to remind you how the control structure guides a population into the outcomes that it wants. Stirring the race pot is first-grade stuff for the controllers. Again, like I said, it's their easiest way in the world for them to manifest the hell that they want. However, are we truthers who see the fraud of this world so arrogant to think we are not being played in the same exact way? Yes, we've likely been played. Go back and watch The Matrix. The key tools to getting the job done for the Oracle and the Architect are Neo and Smith. They were played by the Architect and the Oracle, in my opinion. The humans didn't win anything in the end of the Matrix. The Machine City and the Harvest Pods still existed. The machines just agreed not to kill the Zion residents. They were now safe in their underground hellhole to throw their raves without being interrupted by the Sentinels. Well, whoop the effing do. Both anomalies harmful to the system itself, Smith and Neo, were killed off and done away with. Now, again, even if it's been a while since I've seen The Matrix, even if I got a little bit of a detail of The Matrix off, I think still it's a nice analogy for the way we're being played. It doesn't matter if I'm off on one detail in The Matrix or not. Examine your inner knowing. Who do you think are the strongest reality creators here in this realm? You and me, potentially? Or your brother who only cares about getting to the NFL tailgate at 8:30 in the morning for a 1 o'clock kickoff? Or maybe the greatest reality creators are the guys across the street who got all hot and bothered when they saw the bare boob of Janet Jackson in the wardrobe malfunction. No, I would say you and me are slightly more powerful reality creators. Call it arrogant if you want. Even if we're not, the principle here is still the same. We are asked potentially to carry the ball for these George Bush creatures, to carry forth the hell. What reality has the controllers manifested in each of us? That's right, hell. Let me tell you about my reality. It's one where a sinister force rules the government, that creates war to breed more death, that kills its own people in events like 9/11, and it kills its own people in many other ways, like via fake diseases, crafted diseases like Lyme disease, and false cures. The disease might be real, the cure presented is fake, more people die, they love it. You know all the other things I can list here page after page after page that are all part of my current reality. It adds up to one big shit sandwich, or exactly the hell that they want. And anybody saying, well, it's a little arrogant to say you know for sure all these things, you can see all these things. No, we can see all these things. Remember the beginning of this presentation? We've broken them down. These are not if this is going on. We know these things are going on. But the point is, going on in our reality. In my neighbor's reality, I'm not so sure they're going on. That's the way you have to think about this. We are so sure, it's just an absolute given, that our reality must be exactly the same as our neighbor's. Why must that be a given? Perhaps as leading or top or special reality creators in this realm, it's our role to create the hell for ourselves and then bring that hell to everyone around us, because they can't do it themselves. Our role from the perspective of the controllers, if they get us to do what they want us to do. Okay? The examples are endless. We see chemtrails every day, and we make endless videos about how they cause the California wildfires and cause the die-off in my own backyard with my chestnut oaks. I've lost 10 large chestnut oaks in, 3 years. 10 big ones in 3 years. I attribute it to the chemtrails. Perhaps all they can do is plant a seed, though, or lay a breadcrumb. That's all they can do. And we must water and germinate the seed. We must grab a hold of it. And we are the conduits to actually spread the virus as reality creators. Perhaps this is the ultimate trick. In the Matrix, again, the most powerful two entities were tricked and then done away with. Think about it. As I've made these types of videos over the past 7 or so years, a lot of videos I've made have been considered fear porn when I didn't know any better, but that's, I think, part of the process of growing. During the whole process, so there was always a little voice inside of me that said, there's something inside of me that's saying that they want me to make these types of videos. They want me to make a 9/11 video or expose something at Captain Hook. And I always thought, like, the reason they would want me to do it is it instills fear. And quite literally, I still believe this, that they do feed in some way off the fear or the negative frequency those videos create, put out into the ether, for example. So I thought, well, maybe that's all there is to it, that we've got to be careful in making this fear porn because they feed from it, and that's what they want. But I'm not sure that explains all of it at this point. Hear me out. They spread the mantra all over the internet about YouTube and Facebook censorship and fake news censorship. Censorship everywhere. We hear that all over YouTube. But for the most part, the main videos and channels like mine still deliver these types of messages. I know a lot of channels have gone away because they were just monetized and all they cared about was the money. I've never been monetized. But we can generally still deliver the message. So they perpetuate the 9/11 lie, and then we poke holes in the official story. If all they cared about was protecting the ridiculous story, that's all that mattered, why would they have allowed my video, for example, of a few days ago about 9/11, poking fun at the absurd official story? Why take the chance at all if you're the powers that be? How do they know that I haven't made a breakthrough video there? Why not just immediately block the video and say that I use too much copyrighted work. See, that's the thing. I think if all they were worried about is perpetuating their official story, and all they were worried about is us not being able to see the official story and then not communicate that to others, they would have pulled all these videos down a long time ago. Under a million different ways they could have done it. Fake news, copyrighted work. So half the censorship that's out there, it's a kind of a half censorship, but it convinces us that's their tactic. What I said just didn't make a lot of sense, so I have to say it over again. Basically, most of us in the truth community believe we see their fraud and we're going to put it out in videos. All they care about is protecting the fraud, so they're going to try to block or censor our videos as much as possible. That's what it looks like to us, especially when we hear all this talk about censorship. But again, if you're following what I'm saying in this video, they want these videos to get out, not just to perpetuate fear and negative resonance, because we carry the hell with us, and then we're planting that virus into the next reality bubble that we bump up against, potentially. Look, again, we see that all of reality, no doubt about it, has broken down right in front of us in almost every area over the past 5 years. Throw a dart anywhere against your sticky notes. Oh, this dart here just hit Darwin's theory of evolution. Well, one set of Lucy bones, when all of us should be finding missing links when we set footers for a deck in our backyard. Every time we dig into the ground, there should be a missing link bone. We have one set of partial bones called Lucy. The story's total bullshit. Throw another dart into a sticky note. Oh, what'd it hit? Oh, this one hit fossil fuels. And oil comes from dead animals. Yeah, it's amazing how no wells, no oil wells ever really run dry. Saudi Arabia just pumps and pumps and pumps forever. I remember sitting in a class in Penn State in 1991, and the teacher looked all of us in the eye and said there will be no oil on Earth in 7 to 10 years. That was in 1991. It's amazing how all the animals of the world, 75 million years ago, made a pilgrimage to Mecca to all die in the same pit so they could have an oil field over there the size of Lake Michigan. It's all bullshit. Now, do we keep saying to ourselves we're the only ones big enough to see all of this? That the evil of the world that we see, like a virus, is implanted in us, potentially? So, like Smith, our role, potentially, is to spread the virus? We manifest the hell, our role, potentially, is to spread it. What did Smith do in the movie? He just wanted to propagate himself, didn't he? What are we trying to do? We're trying to find a critical mass of people that we can use our efforts to wake up. Waking up our neighbors may simply be spreading the virus from their perspective. In The Matrix, Smith was the one, not Neo. Smith was the one. Go watch the 5 really good YouTube videos that explain it. You, I, people that can see, are possibly like the one. From the machine world's perspective, from the powers that be perspective. What's that thing on the back of the dollar bill again? The all-seeing EYE, I? Or is it the all-seeing I, as in the letter I, or me, the all-seeing me, or you? Maybe that's what the all-seeing I is on the back of the dollar bill. And what are we right now in relation to this reality, at least the way we interpret it? We are all-seeing, aren't we? Oh, we've broken down every bit of reality we see, it's all fake. And perhaps the hell we see is not yet manifested on the rest of humanity. Maybe we, as a special group here, maybe we, as some form of reality creators, are carrying the virus for them. We may be Smith, actually here to replicate and to put the hell into everybody around us. Think of it this way, perhaps. A good commenter left something like this. If we are a Sims video game, and not that our reality is breaking down because the computer was left on overnight, connected to 5 porn sites of malware, that's why our Sims game is acting funny, but potentially the malware that's already in the computer knows that there is a certain set of Sims in the game that have the power to reshape the game itself, and the malware can't do it directly. Now, would the good Sims in the game that have the power to reshape it reshape the game into a living hell if they were just asked straight up to do it? No. Would this work? Hey, you 1% of Sims that have the power to reshape the video game, creative power, and reprogram yourselves, can you do us a favor? We're the George Bush creatures. Can you create a hell for yourself and everybody in the Sims game and spread it all over the game? Please begin creating your hell now while we wait. No, we wouldn't do it. We have to be tricked into doing it. Even if I'm wrong about all of this, we do absolutely all share that they want to manifest some sort of hell, some sort of really perverted reality here. They can't do it themselves, and we have to be tricked to do it for them. Maybe there's a subset inside of this human structure, a subset of a subset, we truthers, that are really being tricked to do it for them. Maybe the only way for the malware to win is to trick the Sims, the ones who can redo the program themselves, to actually do it, thinking they're actually helping out. Now, many of you might be saying, if that's the case, and we're being used, why is it so hard to wake the people up around us? It's a good point. I don't have all the answers for that. But I would think I think ultimately, if we just think deep down, I don't think this construct, this realm, was put here initially for the purposes of evil. I think it's more of like a hijacking situation or a malware situation. I mean, you look at a bird in a tree and certain elements of nature, even if you think this is the Matrix, I don't think this was put here initially to be total hell on earth. So, it's going to have certain safeguards, potentially. It's going to have certain Norton antivirus, or call it whatever you want. I don't think it's going to be that easy for the creatures here to manifest the hell that they want. I think they really got to be crafty in their trick. And I'm just saying, even if you don't believe anything I'm saying, never be arrogant enough to think that we're the ones that are actually the biggest pawns of the powers that be. And we're the ones most responsible for carrying this out. I agree. If that was the case, it should be easier. I should just be able to show somebody Robbie Parker on an iPad at Valley Forge Park while I'm walking, and they should look at it in 2 seconds and go, that's bullshit. There's no way that event's real. No father would ever do that the day after his little girl was killed. The total thing's fake. I don't know. But this is just an exercise in thinking big. This idea of everybody having to be tricked, or certain groups having to be tricked, really came to me a few years ago when I was doing these videos about Ray Kurzweil, or looking into Ray Kurzweil. And we, from Glenn Beck and all the others and Alex Jones, we've all heard the same story. And to me, it's total BS. Ray Kurzweil's playing a role in the script. Oh, Ray Kurzweil's working with a group of evil geniuses at Google to get your brain chipped and to get your consciousness uploaded into a computer. And we've heard all that stuff from the days of Glenn Beck in 2008 on Fox. But you know what I found when I was researching Ray Kurzweil? Every single speech he gave was the same canned bullshit. He'd go to Harvard, then to Yale, then to University of Pennsylvania, then whatever research group, then Cal Berkeley. He said the same stuff with the same canned lines. I mean, if you're the top mind working with the top geniuses at Google to upload consciousness to the internet or to chip brains, and you're the top guy. No, you don't have rote answers. You just talk. Somebody asks you a question and you just talk like a normal person. It was scripted, I'm telling you, what Ray Kurzweil was delivering. And it hit me. And I went, he's delivering a script. His role in this script is to go all over the country and to say, this is what we're working on. And I thought, well, why doesn't he just do it? Why is he constantly, this Ray Kurzweil, he's just a spokesmouth. He's not doing crap back at Google campus, okay? No way. Do I know that? No, but I'm telling you, it was so obvious when I researched this, and he kind of said the same canned bullshit. I said, his job is just to give the speech. And I thought the only way that makes sense in some weird way is he's trying to manifest it. If enough people believe we will become part of the Matrix, or like that line I wrote on the cover of the book, the Matrix is on the verge of becoming real. I don't even know why I wrote that. I was just it just kind of hit me to write that. And when I wrote that, every day since I've looked back, I'm going, this is like, I really believe this. It's like he's trying to manifest it in some way. I don't have the right words, and I'm sick as a dog, but you understand what I'm saying. Why else would he be out there giving that speech over and over and over again? It just didn't make any sense. If you're working on it, get back in the lab and work on it. So guys, just to wrap this up, I appreciate your thoughts. This just came to me today, with a 102-degree hallucination. If I'm totally off in every area, rip me apart. What do we do if I'm right? And we actually are the biggest group being tricked to perpetuate the hell on earth for the system, then there's really only one thing we can do. We have to start immediately believing that we quantumly affect reality. Believing it. Like the book or the old movie, what the bleep do we know? People in that book and movie, I never understood it. They would get out of bed in the morning and they'd say, I'm going to go create my own reality. That's what these people say. And, and I thought, you really can't do that unless you really believe it. But we have to start believing it. Because, see, if we realize, and it does come true, that we are a major role in those being tricked, and we're not so smart, and we can see it and our neighbors can't, we're so arrogant. If it turns out we're the main tool, we are the Agent Smiths, if that turns out to be right, then it proves we're reality creators. It proves we have the magic. It by their very actions proves to us maybe something that we weren't that confident about. And then what do? We do basically what what's her name? Cynthia Sue Larson. I don't know if I'm getting her name right. We simply imagine and create the reality that we want. And we certainly don't make any more videos or perpetuate the hell that they want by saying, to anybody around us that the whole world construct is fake. If it's that fake, then it can't hide forever. And if millions and millions and millions of people see it, it will implode on itself. If it's that fake, and we are not in our own reality bubbles, and we share all these elements with everyone else, then it can't maintain itself. There's just nothing there. There's nothing holding the bridge up. Let it implode on itself. Right now, I fear the hell that I see all around me. I'm perpetuating that on others, and it might be exactly what they want me to do. I'm not doing shit like making another 9/11 video like I did until I figure this out.